My lover lost his memory, but it's all an act. My lover lost his memory, but strangely, he only forgot me. He's pretending, and I haven't exposed him. Our marriage certificate soon turned into a divorce decree. 3 days later, the wedding I had spent an entire month carefully planning went ahead as scheduled. The groom was still him. But the bride was replaced by his persistent ex-girlfriend. When we met again, he grabbed my hand in a panic, his eyes full of confusion.
Grace Miller, where did you go? Why didn't you look for me?
I feigned ignorance and asked cautiously. Sir, who are you? Do we know each other? Grace Miller, come get a divorce. His words were cold and blunt. I stayed silent. He didn't wait for an answer and hung up immediately. Ethan Brooks, my lover. He lost his memory. And the first thing he did after losing it was to ask me for a divorce. We got our marriage license just that morning, and by afternoon, we were at the courthouse to file for divorce. When I walked into the county clerk's office, I saw Ethan wasn't alone. The woman holding his arm closely was someone I knew well, Chloe Bennett, Ethan's ex-girlfriend. She and Ethan had been entangled on and off for 5 years, until I came along. Now that Ethan had forgotten me, she was back by his side. When Chloe saw me, her smile froze, and she whispered defensively, Miss Grace, don't misunderstand, Ethan and I are just. Before she finished, she clung tightly to Ethan's arm. Ethan squeezed her hand and firmly declared, I asked Chloe to come with me. Don't get the wrong idea, she's my girlfriend. A sharp pain hit my chest. I couldn't resist Chloe's mocking gaze and could only nod numbly. When the divorce papers were being processed, the clerk looked at me in surprise. That morning, when we came for the marriage license, she had wished us a lifetime of happiness. That afternoon, we were back, but this time for a divorce. The woman holding Ethan's hand was no longer me, but Chloe. Standing before them, I felt like a stranger in a foreign land. The clerk hesitated. This doesn't comply with regulations. Ethan frowned, clearly annoyed, and pulled out his phone to make a call. Soon after, I received the expedited divorce certificate. Holding that bright red document, I bitterly laughed at myself, so that was the purpose behind his fake amnesia. He said coldly to Chloe, We're divorced now. Are you still going to cling to the Brooks family? Chloe laughed, covering her mouth. Well, we were married once. If you have nowhere to stay, you could at least stay a few days. Ethan snapped. We're divorced. You need to move out now. His tone was indifferent, as if he wasn't the one pretending to have amnesia. My throat tightened as the divorce certificate flashed before my eyes. 5 years of love had ended in such a ridiculous way. I took a deep breath and replied calmly, Fine. The car he drove was the one we had chosen together for our wedding. He once said, On our wedding day, I'll drive this car to bring my Grace home. But now, sitting in the front passenger seat was Chloe. Ethan buckled her seatbelt, and they looked so intimate. Chloe glanced at me coldly and said, This is Ethan's exclusive car for me. He doesn't want any other woman riding in it. Ethan indulged her. Anything you say. They drove off, and the exhaust fumes almost suffocated me. I held back tears and took a cab back to the villa. The door was shut tight, and luggage was carelessly thrown outside. Aunt Zhang opened the door, noticing my confusion, and hesitated. Miss Chloe told me to throw these out. Chloe sneered as she stepped out. Is this your stuff? Sorry, I thought it was trash. I said coldly. Miss Bennett's manners are truly questionable. From inside came Ethan's angry shout. Grace Miller, don't push your luck. Chloe already apologized. What more do you want? Ethan stood beside Chloe, his face cold as he glanced at the scattered items and sneered. Trash is trash. What's the difference? Only you can't let go. I choked back tears, speechless. He urged me. Stop dragging this out. Pack your things and leave. I don't want to see you again. Inside, I felt nothing but calm as I silently packed. This villa was our marital home. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, designed by me, meant for a lifetime with him. Now the house was still here, but the ownership had changed. I dragged 2 suitcases and left. Chloe boasted.
Without all this trash, the air feels so much fresher.
Ethan instructed Aunt Zhang. Clean thoroughly. Anything of hers, throw it all away. I stopped, holding back tears, and said coldly. Trash you don't want, it's yours. I rented a random place and collapsed onto the bed, exhausted, sleeping for days. On the 3rd day, my business partner called. I'm a wedding planner, running an event company with friends. I've planned countless beautiful weddings for couples and spent a whole month preparing my own. Now, that wedding was just a mirage. Hearing Ethan and Chloe's names on the phone, my heart sank and I instinctively refused. My partner warned.
Grace, you know the Brooks family's influence. One word from them could ruin your career in the city.
After hanging up, I collapsed back on the bed. Ethan was targeting me. He specifically asked me to plan his wedding, and I couldn't avoid it. I hurriedly got ready and went to the wedding venue, a manor surrounded by a sea of lavender. The lavender swayed in the breeze, releasing a faint, sweet scent. This was the venue I had chosen. Where I once dreamed of promising my life to the one I loved, surrounded by this magical sea of flowers. Now, looking at it, my heart ached. I put my feelings aside and discussed details professionally with Chloe. She was picky and bossy, while Ethan patiently stayed by her side, holding her gently. A few days ago, he held me like that, patiently listening as I talked about our future wedding. After hours of hard work, Chloe said, "Forget it, stick to the original plan. After all, Miss Grace knows it best. I trust her to handle it." I stared at the dense notes on the tablet, clenching my fists. That original plan was the wedding I had designed for myself. Seeing my silence, Chloe's smile grew wider. The wedding is tomorrow afternoon. It's rushed, but I believe you can pull it off, right? I was stunned. The wedding was still scheduled for tomorrow afternoon. I met her smug gaze, emotions churning inside me. Gritting my teeth, I finally said. Fine. Chloe leaned on Ethan, smiling with hidden malice. Ethan, Miss Grace helped a lot. You owe her a big wedding gift. Ethan replied coldly.
She's just doing her job. Why would I pay her otherwise?
Chloe's smile deepened with pride. I pressed my lips tight, closed my eyes, too tired to speak. After a long silence, I whispered. You're the clients. The customer is always right. After they left, I breathed a long sigh. I didn't want to get tangled up anymore. But the show had started and couldn't be stopped. Rubbing my temples, I knew I couldn't slack off. They left easily but dumped a mess on me. Luckily, the wedding had been planned for a month already. And was 70% done, just needing final touches. Still, I stayed up all night. The next day, I struggled to sit up after only 2 hours of sleep, but I had to keep working. The wedding was today, and countless details still needed attention. Exhausted, barely able to stand, my eyelids heavy and mind foggy, I stumbled when suddenly a hand steadied me. I opened my eyes to see Ethan. Instinctively, I pushed him away. He froze, then his eyes turned cold. What are you standing there for? The wedding's a mess. Aren't you going to help? I smiled bitterly, heart aching. Making money is hard, but taking abuse is harder. I had no energy to argue and silently turned away, only to be stopped by Chloe's voice. She wore the purple wedding dress I had once chosen, her waist slender and posture elegant, stunningly beautiful. My gaze involuntarily fell on her, and my heart twisted painfully. Chloe spun among the crowd, her fake smile dazzling.
Miss Grace, do you think this dress looks good? Does it match today's setting?
I said nothing, just nodded mechanically. She looked at me proudly.
Why not have Miss Grace be our wedding host?
The tension in my mind snapped, and I clenched my teeth in silence. Ethan quietly said, "Chloe, stop it. She's not really suitable." "I believe in Miss Grace's ability," Chloe said coquettishly, holding his arm. "She's been in wedding planning for years. Can't she host a wedding?" Ethan reluctantly agreed, staring coldly at me. "Miss Grace, you'll be the wedding host." I smiled bitterly. "What if I don't want to?" He frowned and threatened. "Then I'll have to assume you're not capable. No company would keep you." The taste of blood rose in my mouth as I swallowed my sorrow. "Can't we just part on good terms? I'm not someone who clings desperately. Why must I suffer like this?" Numbly, I agreed and staggered toward Chloe, blurting out,
Miss Bennett, you really love wearing other people's hand-me-downs, don't you?
After saying that, I didn't look back and hurried away. At 6 p.m., the sunset painted the sky with fiery colors, gently spilling over the lavender fields. Chloe, in her purple wedding dress, slowly walked into the flowers. Applause erupted as she handed her hand to Ethan. Tears blurred my vision. This wedding was exactly what I had spent a month planning, except I wasn't the bride. I became a puppet, mechanically reciting lines, my laughter masking the dead calm inside. Late at night, after the event ended, I dragged my exhausted body back to my rented room and collapsed, passing out immediately. When I woke, the shrill ring of the phone pierced the silence. My cheeks burned, my forehead was feverish, I was sick. The phone kept ringing non-stop. I answered with difficulty and faintly heard a familiar but impatient voice.
"Chloe Bennett, what's wrong with you? The wedding's over, can't you handle things?
You've been missing since early morning." I hung up casually, too sick to deal with his nonsense. Racked by illness, I took some medicine and fell into a deep sleep again. In my dreams, memories of Ethan Brooks shattered like broken glass, leaving me bruised all over. This illness lasted a whole week. After 3 days of 4 treatment at the hospital, when I recovered, the lavender on the windowsill had quietly withered. That flower's meaning was waiting for your love. But my love had already withered, leaving only humiliation and trampling. I blocked Ethan Brooks. Since he wanted to fake amnesia, I wished he would forget me completely and never involve me again. I left the city and traveled frequently for work. A month later, returning, I stepped out of the company building and saw a Mercedes parked by the curb. The man smoking beside it was surrounded by haze, his expression blurry. He looked up and locked eyes on me. It was Ethan Brooks. Before I could dodge, he grabbed my wrist and urgently asked, "Grace Miller, where have you been? Why didn't you look for me?" I pressed my lips tight and feigned ignorance. "Sir, who are you? Do we know each other?" He was shocked and panicked, gripping harder.
"Grace Miller, what are you talking about? Don't you remember me?"
Pain surged, I furrowed my brow, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. "Sir, please let go. This is harassment. If you don't, I'll call 911. He didn't release me, panic showed in his eyes.
"Grace, I'm Ethan Brooks, your husband."
I didn't believe him and bit him hard in the struggle. He winced in pain but still wouldn't let go. I shouted for help. "Help!" He tried to cover my mouth but was too late. Bystanders rushed over, he hurriedly explained.
"I'm her husband, she's just upset."
I broke free quickly. "He's lying. I don't know him." The crowd looked confused and held Ethan firmly. A good Samaritan called the police. The police took us to the station. Ethan Brooks was my husband once. The marriage and divorce certificates were dated the same day. Our marriage lasted less than 24 hours. The officer scrutinized Ethan, then sternly reprimanded him before letting us go. Outside the station, Ethan's eyes locked on me, his voice hoarse.
"Grace, don't you remember me?"
I stepped back coldly.
"I had a severe illness a month ago and lost a lot of memories. Do I remember you? If I don't, it's not important."
His expression was stabbed by my words. He opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. I heard you're my ex-husband. Since that's true, we don't need to see each other anymore. Ethan panicked.
Grace, listen to me.
Suddenly, Chloe appeared, eyes hostile. Ethan Brooks. She clung tightly to his arm and demanded. What are you doing here? I sneered. You're his wife? Ask your husband that, don't question me. Chloe's face darkened, but she forced a firm tone. Ethan wouldn't be wrong. Ethan shook her off, never looking at her. His voice hoarse, he said. Grace, she's not my wife. I never married her. You're my only wife. Chloe's face turned pale, she grabbed him urgently.
Ethan, let's go home.
He pushed her away, she fell and cried. Ethan, it hurts. He was indifferent, eyes fixed on me, voice weak. Grace, I lost my memory before and was tricked into divorcing you, but I've remembered everything. I cut him off impatiently. I don't care. Stop bothering me. Turning to leave, he tried to follow, but I warned coldly. This is a police station. Do you want to go back inside? He stopped, and I didn't look back. Behind me, they argued fiercely, but it was none of my business. Yet Ethan didn't give up. He found out where I lived and waited outside every day. Every time I opened the door, there was his face. I frowned, annoyed. A flicker of vulnerability appeared in his eyes, but he insisted on handing me my favorite breakfast, steaming custard buns and century egg congee. I pushed him away impatiently, the food fell to the floor in a mess. The congee spilled, soaking my pants. I exploded in anger.
Early in the morning, can you stop causing trouble? So annoying!
His expression instantly darkened, some congee spilled on his hand, burning red, but he whispered. Grace, I'm sorry. I didn't want to hear more and slammed the door hard. After changing clothes, I ignored Ethan waiting outside. He followed me like a begging dog, only to be hit by my car's exhaust. By noon, still persistent, he sent flowers and lunch through someone, all of which I refused. The delivery person called him several times, finally dumping the spoiled, foul-smelling food and wilted flowers at the company entrance. I pinched my nose and threw everything in the trash. Looking up, I saw his hurt eyes and frowned in anger.
Why do you always cause trouble for others?
Ethan pressed his lips tight, eyes clouded with gloom. I rubbed my temples, impatient. Ethan Brooks, what's the point of all this? I don't remember you and don't want to. Stop interfering with my life. His face turned pale, he stood silently, eyes full of unspeakable sadness. After a moment, choking back tears, he begged. Grace, give me a chance to wake your memory. I've lost mine before I know how to help you remember. I cut him coldly.
You lost your memory, I lost mine. Fine, no debts between us, no need to recover.
His throat tightened, pain numb on his face. Grace, do you still blame me? I was tricked by Chloe into divorcing you. Can you forgive me? I interrupted impatiently. It doesn't matter. I don't care. He breathed heavily, agony overwhelming, voice hoarse.
Grace, you weren't like this before.
As a wedding planner, I've seen countless troubles, but Ethan's act made me lose control. I saw the smugness in his eyes, pleased that I lost my composure for him. He thought only someone as lowly and desperate as me would prove their love for him. Ridiculous, he thought this was love? It was naked mockery, he didn't deserve forgiveness. I rejected him repeatedly, but he appeared tirelessly. Every time I ignored his kindness, sadness showed on his face. The next day, he humbly tried to win me over again. One night, craving food, I casually posted on social media.
Really want to eat this.
Half an hour later, there was a knock. Ethan stood at the door, forehead sweaty, holding the food from my post. I heard his heavy breathing, knowing he had rushed to multiple stores late at night just to get it for me, but he said nothing about the effort, only softly. Grace, didn't you say you wanted this? I got it for you. No joy showed on my face, only disgust. I pushed him away.
You did this on purpose, didn't you? You know I'm dieting but still want me to eat high-calorie food at midnight. Why do you always mess things up?
I slammed the door in frustration, then reopened it.
Grace, will you accept my feelings?
His eyes shone with hope. I sneered. Stay away. Don't stalk my social media. Then I scolded him harshly, shut the door, and blocked him. Unable to reach me, he camped outside my apartment in company every day. Several times, I heard him arguing loudly with Chloe outside and assistants urging him to return to work. As a manager, his frequent absences caused business to stall, and shareholders began complaining. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. I thought he would give up, but he didn't. Opening the door, I still saw his haggard face, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed. I called the police. He was detained for a few days but didn't change. I mocked.
A CEO of a public company, yet you end up labeled a harasser. How pathetic.
Ethan clenched his teeth, jaw tight, silently showing his stubbornness. I crossed my arms, looking down on him.
Tell me, what will it take for you to give up?
He suddenly straightened, eyes bright. Grace, give me a chance to help you recover your memory. Once you remember, you'll come back to me. I looked at him meaningfully.
You're so sure that if I remember everything, I'll forgive you? Whether I have amnesia or not, we divorced. You even had a wedding with her. I don't think I'll forgive you after remembering.
He stepped back, avoiding my gaze but firm. Grace, once you remember everything, you'll come back to me. I didn't bother exposing his self-deception, calmly saying, I'll give you 1 week. If you can't make me change my mind, don't bother me again. He bargained.
How about a month?
I frowned, annoyed.
Don't haggle. I don't have time to waste. You're running out of time. More trouble will only make things worse.
He bit his lip, silent. I tried to close the door, but he stopped me. Okay. He said this with a heavy gaze, longing and hope intertwined, gripping my hand tightly and taking me to all the places we left marks in this city. Our first meeting was love at first sight for him, not with money, but by genuinely learning my likes: milk tea, sweets, lavender, favorite games and colors, aesthetics, and values. He pursued me sincerely, making me feel we shared interests. I gradually let my guard down and even enjoyed it. He was like a net trapping me. When I fell for him, there was no escape. Over 3 years of dating, his true nature surfaced, but I thought it was normal in love to lower standards and tolerate. But Ethan Brooks's true self was far worse than I imagined. He kept rambling about the good old days. I was expressionless and cold. He awkwardly avoided my gaze, unable to meet the indifference in my eyes. Those good times had long been replaced by shame and abuse. I felt nothing. Faced with my coldness, his eyes reddened. He opened his phone album, showing photo after photo, telling stories. Suddenly, the photos switched to Chloe and him. He hurriedly hid the phone, stammering,
Grace,
I was curious. I heard Chloe is your ex, on and off for 5 years. Why didn't you stay with her? He whispered after a long pause.
She's the past, Grace.
I love you now. I asked.
But you lost your memory and only forgot me. You married her. That means I'm irreplaceable, and she matters to you. If so, why cling to me? Why not stay with her?
He was pale and speechless. I said lightly, if you can forget, it means the forgotten is unimportant. Amnesia is no excuse for mistreatment. His breath caught, panic spreading in his eyes, his lips trembled, and his throat seemed hoarse. After a long pause, he whispered, Grace, just 3 more days, and I'll make sure you remember everything we had. I sneered softly but said nothing. On the 4th day, he brought back the blue cat he had previously left at the pet boarding facility. The blue cat jumped at my feet, rubbing affectionately against my hand, refusing to leave. I stroked its dull, withered fur, suddenly freezing in place. That blue cat was a gift he gave me on my 26th birthday. That day, hidden inside a large bouquet of lavender flowers was a 3-month-old kitten, irresistibly cute. He held the flowers and kitten, his face soft with a gentle smile. "Grace, would you give this little kitten a home?" I petted the soft little head, my voice unconsciously softening. "Kitty, would you like to come live with Auntie?" The kitten meowed softly in response, and Ethan smiled, agreeing. "Okay, I'd like that." He leaned close, his smile pleading. "The kitten still needs a dad. You wouldn't want it to grow up without one, right?" My face flushed red, and I muttered, "In your dreams." But under his persistent charm, I finally agreed to live with him. Now, when I recall that time, Ethan's eyes soften with tenderness. I gently stroked the blue cat curled on my lap, my expression distant and watery. Thinking back to the day he kicked me out, all I could take with me was what others called trash. Although the blue cat was officially mine, I couldn't take it with me. A sarcastic smile tugged at my lips as I scolded.
How could you put a cat in a lavender? Do you know lavender is toxic to cats? What if it ate some by mistake? Besides, who gives a living creature as a birthday gift? The owner has to be responsible for life.
Or do you just see cats as toys, to keep or toss whenever you want? Ethan stood dumbfounded, helpless and speechless. I held the blue cat close, feeling sorry it was his gift, but I was the one caring for it. I'd never owned a pet before and only learned from research that cats must avoid lavender. Since then, I kept the cat and lavender apart, but he never paid attention. Now that he still openly mentions it to me, I realize he was just following a trend back then. His face darkened as I asked,
"If it's my cat, why did you hide it?"
Ethan was speechless. I calmly asked, "I lost my memory. Is it my fault you told me? That I no longer want to care for it?" He clenched his fists, struggling with regret. "Grace, it's my fault. I didn't handle my amnesia properly and hurt you. I won't make the same mistake again," I said lightly. Amnesia isn't an excuse for neglecting a cat. I looked away, ignoring his lonely expression, and told him, "Since it's my cat, I'm taking it." At once, his face brightened. "Grace, I knew you wouldn't abandon the cat." I sharply interrupted. "Draw up a contract. Don't try to take the cat away." His lips tightened, and he muttered, "Grace, why are you so distant with me?" I sneered.
"Mr. Brooks, from where I stand, you're less than a stranger."
He froze, his eyes instantly dimming. Ethan's expression grew increasingly uncomfortable. On the last evening, the sunset painted the sky brilliantly as we arrived at the familiar lavender fields. Everything looked just like the wedding venue from a month ago, except there were no guests, no bride, no groom. The wind blew, and my black hair swayed with the lavender. Ethan gazed at me foolishly, kneeling on one knee, his palm open with a familiar wedding ring. 2 months ago, that ring had been on my finger. But on the day of his wedding with Chloe, in this very lavender field, he placed it on Chloe's finger. His figure overlapped with the groom from that day. He spoke softly. "Grace, we once planned a grand wedding here in the Lavender Sea, where I held your hand and promised to be with you forever in front of everyone." He stared deeply and firmly into my eyes. "Grace Miller, will you marry me?" I laughed angrily, slapped him across the face, and shouted,
"Do you think I'm Chloe Bennett? You'll take any second-hand goods?"
His right cheek swelled, and I turned away in fury, unwilling to stay in this heartbreaking place. He stood stunned for a moment, then chased after me. I said coldly, "Enough. It's the last day. Don't bother me anymore." He grabbed my wrist desperately, eyes bloodshot, full of sorrow and pity. "Grace, just this last time, will you come with me somewhere?" I pulled my wrist impatiently, but he didn't let go, his eyes full of humility. "Just this once." I reluctantly agreed. "Fine." The car stopped in front of a familiar villa. He hesitated. "Grace, do you remember? This is our home. Home? 2 months ago, I was kicked out of this very place. I said firmly. This is not my home. His expression fell, and he instinctively reached to hold my hand, but I deliberately avoided it. I said coldly, Mr. Brooks, know your limits. He was silent. Suddenly, the villa door was pushed open, and Chloe appeared, her hair messy and face haggard. Seeing Ethan, tears welled in her eyes as she ran to hug him. Ethan, you're finally back. How long have I waited? You bad man, I'm pregnant 4 months along. You're going to be a dad. Ethan's face darkened, he looked anxiously at me while pushing her away forcefully. With a loud thud, Chloe hit the doorframe and fell hard. Her face was pale, her hand pressed against her swollen belly, pain twisting her features. Blood flowed from beneath her, bright and shocking. She cried and struggled, reaching out to Ethan. Ethan, save my baby. Ethan stepped back, expression stiff, coldly saying, That child shouldn't exist. He turned to me. Grace, don't listen to her nonsense. I interrupted. What's the point of saying this now? Get her to the hospital. Chaos reigned in the dark night. Under the hospital's harsh lights, Chloe looked pale and bloodless. The baby was gone, and Chloe was injured. Future pregnancies would be harder and less likely to succeed. After a moment, she stirred slightly, raising her eyes to glare at me. It's all your fault. The baby's gone because of you. She struggled to reach me, but I quickly stepped back. Ethan immediately stood between us, harshly scolding. Chloe, have you caused enough trouble? Tears fell as she angrily said.
Ethan, she killed our baby. I might never have another child. How can you side with her?
I pushed Ethan aside and coldly warned. Miss Bennett, don't spread lies. The villa's security cameras recorded everything clearly. If you're not crazy, go watch the footage before accusing. She choked on her words, unable to speak. I warned. If you keep twisting the truth, I'll treat it as harassment, report it to the police, and sue if necessary. Her eyes were red and swollen, burning with rage. Ethan rubbed his temples, voice cold. The baby's gone. It shouldn't have been conceived. You're just suffering the consequences. Chloe's breath caught, her hollow eyes flashing with bitter hatred as she sneered. Ethan, I had the abortion on purpose. But if you could control yourself, you wouldn't have ended up in bed with me. She turned to me, a smirk on her lips.
Do you know when this happened? While you were busy planning the wedding for a whole month, he was cheating on you. Do you think the baby just fell from the sky?
Ethan exploded in anger.
Shut up!
He panicked and tried to explain.
Grace, don't believe her. The baby isn't mine. I don't know whose it is. She's framing me.
I cut him off coldly. I don't need your excuses. My face was calm, as if this farce was none of my concern.
Ethan, our deal is over. Don't bother me again.
Saying that, I turned and left. Ethan tried to follow but was knocked down by Chloe, whose hateful cries echoed behind us. Ethan, are you even human? I hate you. You deserve to die. Ethan disappeared completely from my life. I moved the branch office to another city and bought a house to settle down. Occasionally, when I stroke the soft fur of the cat in my arms, I remember that name, Ethan Brooks. His life clearly wasn't going well. The company's finances declined, and shareholders murmured complaints. Overwhelmed, he was relentlessly harassed by Chloe. After Chloe was discharged, her mental state was poor, and she followed Ethan around like a ghost. She muttered, Ethan, how could you like another woman? It's just a breakup. You've said that before. You'll get back together soon. She sobbed uncontrollably. But Ethan, I've waited so long. Why haven't you come back to me? Ethan was tormented and frustrated, trying to drive her away with words and blows, but to no avail. Over time, he grew more irritable. One day, in public, he lost control and severely injured Chloe. Because Chloe had mental illness, Ethan was detained in a holding facility. The video of the assault went viral online, sparking public outrage. His history of stalking and harassing me was dug up, fueling even greater fury. Under the media storm, the company's stock plummeted and shareholders demanded accountability. Ethan returned to the company under heavy pressure. But he was overwhelmed and clumsy. He admitted Chloe to the ICU, and her family sued him. Now, Ethan faced two choices: lose the lawsuit and go to jail, or care for Chloe under her family's supervision for life. This scandal raged online for a whole month. After the storm died down, Ethan and Chloe secretly registered their marriage. He married the woman he once despised but now had to care for forever. He bore the burden of Chloe's entanglement and his family's watchful eye. I never expected to see Ethan again. It was by chance, his gaze complicated and unreadable. After a long moment, he called out, "Grace, are you doing okay now?" I gave him a cold glance. He was clearly not well. White hairs crept at his temples, wrinkles deepened at his eyes, and his face was full of gloom and lifelessness. It was said he held company shares but had no real power. For a man at his career peak, it was a heavy blow. I raised an eyebrow, ignoring his words. Before getting in the car, his gaze lingered long. I turned my head, not far away, voice calm. "My amnesia was fake, and I know yours is too. We're even." Ethan's pupils dilated suddenly. He tried to speak but was stopped by Chloe's sudden appearance. Without hesitation, I got in the car and drove away, leaving only exhaust fumes behind. When I was with Ethan, I learned he had a 5-year entanglement with Chloe. Saying he didn't care was a lie. He repeatedly promised no contact with Chloe. But in the month I meticulously planned the wedding, he was tangled with Chloe again. On the morning we got the marriage license, I hurried off for work. Returning early, I heard unpleasant noises from the bedroom. It was Ethan and Chloe. I didn't even have the strength to open the door and expose them. I gave him some dignity. Cheating was my bottom line, I couldn't tolerate it. But at that time, I remained silent. Ethan was greedy. I overheard him calling a friend, saying calmly, "I regret it. I shouldn't have been tied down by marriage when I was young. She doesn't love me like Chloe does. Chloe would die for me. She's different, too calm, a bit boring. I want to separate for a while, then find her again when I'm sure." Amnesia? If I lost my memory, would she go crazy for me? I want to see how far she'd go for me.